Hello, welcome to Stephen Speak. On this episode of Stephen Speak, it's another guest episode, and we're speaking to Jonny, and he's going to be talking about his motorcycle love and a trip he did to the Arctic Circle for charity. So we'll get speaking to him straight away because I'm really excited to speak to him because I really don't know much about it. And also, I've driven all the way to his house to speak to him, so I've driven like 150 miles so far today just to do this. So I'm really excited to see what he's got to say, so let's get speaking. Welcome to Stephen Speak, the podcast. Unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Welcome to the show, Jonny.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks
good.
for taking the trip over.
Thank you for welcoming me into your house to do this podcast. It's a first, so you've got that credit to your name that you're the first one to be on location.
A lot of planning.
So to speak. So a round of applause for Jonny being on Stephen Speak. And as I said in the intro, we're going to be talking a little bit about motorcycles and why. Well, we both love motorcycles. We had a bit of a chinwag beforehand. We probably should have started recording straight away, but we ended up chatting over a coffee for a while. But that's always good. Build a bit of rapport. And
that's it.
But so we both love motorcycles. Jonny has a few more than I do, I think. But it's all good. But we're going to be talking about a trip that you did to the Arctic Circle for charity.
Yes.
And some other trips that you've got planned. So we'll see if this turns into one episode or two episodes. The people listening will know because they'll already seen it in the description, but we don't know yet because we don't know
We don't know
how much prattling we're going to do. So if it's anything like my normal episodes, then there'll be a lot of prattle. So bikes.
Yeah.
When did you get into bikes, and why do you love being a biker so much?
So I didn't do my test until I was sort of in my late 20s.
Right.
I was working abroad with some guys that I was sharing office with, and they were bikers, and spent 4 weeks with them, listening to them and looking at my bike trader, and sort of come back and
ended up wanting a bike.
Yeah, I had some free time, so straight away booked the test and then just got the bug straight from there. Few smaller tours, and there's no better way to practice than just getting on and hitting the miles. So.
Exactly, and it's great with stress reliever, isn't it? Like just get a bike and just blast down the road, and obviously within the speed limit, obviously. Always.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good to get out there, isn't it? And you feel so free. Like driving a car for me is really boring.
It's really restrictive,
but you just feel so. I don't know. It's such a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think we tend to not head in a certain direction. We just ride and see where we end up.
I said to you, didn't I, when I was driving here? And that's what I do on my motorbike. When I'll just head in a direction, and then I follow stupid place names. So if I see like a really random place name or something that sounds interesting, I'm like, I'll go there. And that's how I plan my day. And then eventually when I feel like, actually, I probably should head home, I just then head home.
Yeah, it's the same. I think the quickest way is generally the most boring way.
Exactly.
You want to be sort of on a challenging road or looking at
doing 150 miles on a motorway is not great, is it? So.
No, it's not. No one wants to get there quickly.
No.
They want to have fun along the way and sort of see things that you wouldn't normally see.
Exactly. And it's around here is. I was quite impressed by some of the roads around here, and I thought,
we're lucky with the coast roads. Definitely for bikers, anywhere from sort of Spurn Point up to Whitby. There's probably 60, 70 miles of quality twisties.
So my experience of riding a motorcycle around here is on a motorway, like the A1, M1, just straight through, bypassing over the Humber Bridge, which I'm planning to go back that way actually, because I've ridden north over the bridge, and I've now ridden under the bridge through Hull.
Yep.
So now I want to go south on the bridge. So I'm a bit of a bridge spot. I love bridges. I don't know why. I've always loved.
It's pretty much all that's in Hull as well.
Yeah,
so it's
pretty much. Yeah,
you can't come and not visit.
I say so. Like bike wise, what sort of bikes do you normally go for?
So I started on the general ones. I think everyone does with the 600 nakeds.
Yep.
But even though I didn't have my bike license when I was younger, I had a passion for sport bikes, just the look of them. So I started really collecting the sport bikes and realising that they are fun to tour on, but you can't eat the miles up.
Yeah.
I always had a soft spot for the Suzukis, especially the Gixxer 1000s, the 750s.
Nice.
Or Hondas. I always seem to fall back into.
I've never owned another brand other than a Honda, and part of me goes, that's terrible. Can you call yourself a biker without ever not riding? I've ridden other bikes.
Yeah.
They've not been mine, but I've only ever owned Hondas.
I think it's just, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I never had to worry about mechanical issues when
Nope.
we've been away, and you know the engines were capable. You can thrash them all day.
Yeah,
and I think
definitely.
especially on the sport bikes, the 1000s were. They feel like you're riding a 600. They're not overly weighted. They're very slight, so they were light to flick around. And you know, I went through a stage when we were going away with the sport bike, so I would take them in a van.
Yeah,
Because I didn't want to ride the motorway. So if we were going to go somewhere interesting, we went to Italy a few times, and you wanted to get to the top of the Alps, if it was dry, take the bikes out the back, enjoy the bike for what it was, without carrying a load of panniers and a load of shit on that. I don't want that.
The thing is, that for me, I like to carry a lot of shit with me. Like if you go and look in the boot of my car now, it's kind of empty actually today because I've carried all of the other shit with me for doing this. But I'm ready for an apocalypse.
I'm saying,
and I used to be on that on my bike. I used to have panniers and everything because it was the type of bike it was. When I had my sports bike, it wasn't like that. But I used to carry if I was going more than say 50 miles, there was everything in my bike just in case I need to stay somewhere.
If I take the panniers now, there is so much crap that I don't know what I'm expecting.
I know,
I'm literally ready to strip the bike down. I'm not even mechanical.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I used to take
like
pretty much like a really comprehensive toolkit, first aid kit, and I thought, well, if I ever need that toolkit, I don't really know what I'm doing anyway, so it's going to be pointless.
I carried crap, and all I'm going to do is ring the RAC, or whoever European cover is, and it's just. But you can't help myself but take it.
Yeah, that's like I'm riding over through Mongolia or something, but I'm literally going up the road through Cheshire.
When I go to Scotland, I'm prepped for the Dakar, and there's like fucking petrol stations and everything, and Halfords all over the place, isn't there?
There is, there is. It's the thing is, it's good to be prepared, but I think there's that balance as well. But I'm upgrading my car soon, and it's gonna have a massive boot, and I think my wife's dreading it.
You're the sort of person that carries a snow shovel.
Everything. I do have a snow shovel in my car.
Shovel and
it's
blankets.
It's only a small one, but I've got one in my car. Yeah. It's all going back in there when I get my big boot again. That's it. I'm having it. And there might actually be room for a bike in there, so you never know.
That's what you need, yeah.
Carrying my bike with me. So you've erred on the side of sports bikes. But we'll start talking towards like this trip that you did, because this is how we connected. Like you posted something onto LinkedIn, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I did a trip 13 years ago now, scarily enough, and I did it for charity. I did mine for the Royal British Legion. Who did yours for?
So it started. We've done the last two charity ones. The first one was for Cancer Research UK.
Yep.
And the second one was for St John's Ambulance.
St John's Ambulance.
Yeah. So the first one came about because we I'd been and done the NC500 a few times in the car.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do it on the bike.
That's
so
the one around
Scotland, yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know it, to be fair, anyone's listening to this episode sees bikes, they should know that, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. We tried to extend it to sort of 700 miles.
Right.
And I foolishly decided that it'd be good to do it on an Aprilia. So I thought,
nice.
20-year-old Aprilia sport bike, 700 miles in 3 days, what can go wrong?
Yep.
I came off the bike trying to think I was probably a better rider than I am. Destroyed the clutch, needed to get the bike picked up, went and hired another bike and finished it. But I said, look, I want to go back up and really do it on a bike again. And we were sort of throwing ideas around, I suppose, and it was, wouldn't it be good to do the NC500 on a bike that was 500 quid?
Yeah.
So I thought, if we're doing that, let's do it for charity and try and utilise LinkedIn and social media to try and raise a bit of money. So I went out and found a Honda CBF600.
Nice.
And, not a bad bike.
A
workhorse, bit of a commuter. Needed a little bit doing to it, so I sort of did it on a shoestring to try and get it, not say roadworthy, but what we needed suitable. And then figured that 500 miles wasn't enough of a challenge for it. So we upped it to 900 in 3 nights on it around Scotland. So starting sort of south of Edinburgh, heading the full east coast, doing the NC500, but incorporating the Isle of Skye into it on the back leg, and the lower part of Argyll and Bute and round Urban. So
it's beautiful around there, isn't it? Like,
amazing! Yeah,
I'm guessing you went through Glencoe then, did you?
Yeah, I think we've done it a few times. Go up through Aviemore. We found that cutting back up through the centre of Scotland, through Lairg, up to Betty Hill in the north was always better than, because John O'Groats is great for a picture, but it's not really a rider's road to get there. And there's nothing.
It's not great to get there. I've been there on my bike, and it's bit disappointed.
You stop at Wick to fill up at Tesco's, and that's the only thing that's there.
Is that big wooden one?
Yeah,
that was a big massive
wooden one.
It's
all clad.
Yeah, that's that is the one highlight I remember from that area. I was like, that's all massive wooden Tesco's.
I think there's Don Robin Castle, like halfway up, and then Tesco's, and that is it. There's fuck all else on the East Coast. But the West Coast, when we've come back down, phenomenal. And obviously we went to Skye and had a look at the fairy pools and things like that. And it was great. I think what it showed is the whole point of doing it with £500 bike was you don't need a 15 grand BMW to go on a bike tour.
No. Exactly.
You need 2 wheels, an MOT, and a bag that you can strap to the back.
Exactly.
But we thought we'd start small with it, see how the bike performed, and it was absolutely fine. No,
Honda. There you go.
Honda. There you go. That's it. Fairings and plastics are a bit shit, but the engine, it pairs. It was comfortable sat. Granted, it drinks a bit of fuel in the power band, but I think that's what you accept with an old Honda, unfortunately.
The bike I did mine on was a CB500, so like slightly smaller engine, but. Reliable as anything.
That's what you want when you saw it.
And I think that's why when I saw your post about your Arctic one, it just hit a chord with me because I remember what it was like to do my trip and did it for charity, and I was just like, oh my god, this is ace.
Yeah.
Like, and I've always had a little thing in me that I've always wanted to do something. I was going to say dangerous, but yes, dangerous. Like, and like, I've always thought, it'd be great to ride to Siberia and ride through the snow on a motorbike and like,
I think when we planned it, it was an off the cuff comment. So I do all the bike tours with a friend of mine from down south called Iain, and we sat having a drink. I think it was actually we'd been on some short tour somewhere, and we said we need to plan somewhere really interesting. So we just bought the Triumph, the Tiger, the 650 Sport, sort of the new smaller version of a tourer, adventure bike, great bike. I said let's do something interesting. So I was looking and thinking, obviously Russia is probably out the equation in the last last 12 to 18 months.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we looked and thought, well, the Arctic Circle will be interesting if we go in summer. Thinking, look, it's only there on a map. And by the time you put the routes in and realised it was going to take us 16 days to get there and back, and it was, I think, the best part of 7,000 or 7,500 kilometres.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it was. It started off with, I'll get a new bike, and then I thought, well, I could do 900 miles on that old bike, so I wonder if it'd handle sort of 7,500 kilometres.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's the idea.
That's kind of where it spawned from. Just it's like a kind of off the cuff conversation, really.
Yeah, and I think as well, when we saw the impacts and how much money we raised for charity just going around Scotland, it was interesting to think, well, if we're going to do it, why not raise a bit of money for a good cause?
Definitely. I think that's the thing. Like, I think you get that from lots of things, don't you? People think, I'll challenge myself, and then you get these things where they'll put someone on Just Giving and raise a bit of money, and if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well have that experience yourself and raise some cash.
Exactly,
as well.
You might as well do it for a good cause. And I remember sitting there when we were planning the initial thing, and we had all the equipment, and we'd watched Ewan McGregor one where they do a long way around and
long way down and all that.
And we sat and watched it first time, because it's the real longest trip. I've done a lot of short ones where they've been intense and a lot of miles in a few days, but it's the first one that's been over a prolonged period of time. And I sat there and I naively said, how much shit could you possibly need? There's shops and hotels and everything, and then when you lay out on the floor the kit that you need to, especially to keep an old bike going. I say, you're not mechanical, but you need stuff for emergencies. So we're carrying things like all the usual oils, coolants, and tyre foam, spare inner tube, everything. It takes up a lot of shit. You should imagine carrying sort of 50, 60, well, maybe not that much, 30, 40 kilos.
And it's trying to pack that in as well, then, isn't it? It's trying to get that balance on a bike, because you have to get it kind of balanced so you're not lopsided.
Exactly. I think I would end up with 2 side soft panniers, a top box, and then a roll top bag behind me with my clothes in. But I will say we were instead of taking clothes and just carrying dirty stuff, I was taking old work tops from offshore and just chuck them away at the end of each day. So you start with a lot of kit, and on the ferry back, there was not a great deal left.
There's nothing wrong with that. When I went to America, because I wanted to bring so many like sports tops and stuff back with me, I bought Poundland.
Yeah, leave it
socks
all
and
there.
Underwear, and literally threw them away every day. I was like, I'm taking my old t-shirts and everything's disposable. And it sounds terrible, doesn't it? Like, we should be maybe, but I was like, I need
I think you need to make the most of it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think when you're riding as well, you kind of don't have to think about repacking your bike every time.
No, that was it. And we were adamant that the panniers needed to be. This one side one was for tools, mechanical things. The second one we actually carried small amounts of food just for sort of lunches and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the top box, I can't remember what was in there. I think it was waterproof and the usual. So at the end of the day, I could just take the roll top bag into the hotel.
Just grab that and leave everything
I will
else.
say, we've done the camping things and tours, and I'm so past that now. I think when you're doing sort of 400 miles a day, the last thing I want to be doing in the Arctic is trying to roll a tent up. You know,
I think it's for me, it's a lot of concentration to be on a motorbike.
Yeah.
When you don't know where you're going and you try, especially in a foreign country as well.
I don't think the scale either. I don't think I appreciate it. I was looking at the map thinking, oh, well, we'll get to there, we'll get to there. There is no scale like it. When we were doing things and we'd ride all day, and then you look on the map and you think, we've not achieved anything.
Yeah.
You know, we've done 400 miles and it looked like you've moved a centimetre on the map. You know, it was insane. But it was definitely a challenge worth doing, I think.
From inception to like leaving, how long was that gap?
I think it was about 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, so we had the idea. We planned a rough idea of the route. We knew we were going to go up the spine of Sweden, around the Great Lakes, through the national parks and everything, and where we wanted to head to in the Arctic, and then across to Lapland and back down, into Finland, and then back down the Swedish coast. So we knew which way we wanted to go. Booking.com was revolutionised for everybody. You know? It's phenomenal. I mean, we had everything lined up. The hotels were the easiest things to do. The harder thing was to try and locate fuel stops and gauge where we were going to be. But other than that, it was pretty much, we winged it a little bit.
Yeah.
We booked the ferries and we're like, well, we'll just, you know, we're essentially following a compass north, you know, as long as we keep the N in front of us.
Did you try and plan that? So I'm guessing, did you book all the hotels?
Yeah, so we
one
booked,
after the other in Nigeria?
Yeah, what we did was we booked them, and if 3 days in we thought we were sort of waning a little bit, then we'd cancel the hotel and sort of for 2 days' time and sort of just jiggle it a little bit. Yeah, I will say there's not a great deal of roads there, so we were sort of limited to the routes we had to follow.
Yeah.
We got on the main road from Gothenburg so we'd gone from Rotterdam, where we sailed into, up to Hamburg, and then we got the ferry across to Denmark, all through Denmark, across Malmö. And when we hit Sweden, we got onto one road, and I remember we had the intercoms on, and my friend saying to me, it's just come up, we've got 1,200 kilometres before the next turn-off. And we were on the same road for, I think it turned out to be 3 days, because it just slowed down. At one point, it was just gravel.
Wow.
So it's the E45, which I think it runs for about 2,500 kilometres from Copenhagen right up the spine of Sweden, across into Finland and on. So it's got some sort of fancy name, but I can't remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. We weren't expecting that.
I don't think you'd ever see that anywhere in the UK, would you? Like I think if you got a road that said don't turn off for like 100 miles, you'd be quite lucky.
You'd be shocked. Sometimes you get on the A1 and it's but I couldn't believe that the scale was. It was insane.
We're quite a small country, aren't we? Really? I mean, well, let's face it. You can drive across Britain in a day, can't you? You can pretty much do Land's End to John O'Groats, which is pretty much the extremities of Britain in a day.
And I think this changed my whole idea of biking. I remember being in Scotland years ago, and we were on the Isle of Skye, and we'd ridden a bit, and there was two bikers turning up, and they told us they'd done 300 miles in a day, and we were like, that's insane. And then when we planned this trip, we realised that we were going to have to do between sort of 300 and 400 miles a day minimum,
just to keep on track.
Just to keep the days going, because the things we didn't want to change was the ferries.
Yeah. So
we knew if we had a slack day, then we wanted to really eat the miles up. Yeah. We made a mistake initially, thinking when we landed in Rotterdam, we'll take a nice route to Hamburg. Came off the motorways, and it took us the best part of 12 hours.
Wow.
Because there was road closures and every fucking nightmare you could imagine going through Germany. And the Germans have two ways of driving. It is flat out or slam your brakes on. That is it. There is no middle ground. So on a bike, we were doing sort of the speed limit ish, and having cars flying up behind us and then screaming on the brakes. So they were literally from me to you away.
Wow, so, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think next time we'll probably try and bypass a little bit of Germany.
That's mad, that is. So going back, we'll take you back to. So you got this £500 bike.
Yep.
What did you do to get that ready? Because obviously, you break down in the middle of nowhere in Sweden or Finland, there's going to be a major problem. So, what did you kind of do to guarantee that was, or try and guarantee as much as you could that?
Yeah, so really fortunate. So, one of the guys that does a lot of work on the bikes has Clarendon Motorcycles in Hull. So we took the bike to him and said, "Explain what we're doing." I think he looked at us with a sense of pride and complete terror of thinking, "What the fuck are you thinking?" But he did also, he helped us source the bike, and he was very confident that with a Honda we would not have any mechanical issues.
Yeah.
So the changes that were made, we obviously installed some of the comfort things, the heated grips, new seats. We raised the front mudguards up because we knew there was going to be gravel issues. Switched the tyres to sort of intermediate. We didn't want to go with, it wouldn't ride properly on full off-road tyres. So and we didn't want to do it on slicks and hards. So we needed some traction. We actually put the luggage rack on there just for the soft panniers to fit to, because we knew that there was going to be a lot of movement, especially on the low roads. Yeah. I didn't want to risk it damaging the rear fairings with any electrical stuff in there.
Yeah.
Heated grips, I mentioned, that was about it.
Yeah.
We literally left it as a commute.
That's not a lot, really, is it?
No, it was
that's
really
quite basic stuff.
Yeah, things like radiator guards as well, just because we knew there was going to be, it would have been a killer. We were looking at where the problems might arise, and it was taking a stone through the radiator would probably end it. Mechanical things otherwise were all right. Our tyres and things weren't an issue. Yeah. But yeah, we didn't do too much to it. I do regret there's some more things we should have done. I think things like handguards would have been beneficial. I didn't anticipate it, and this is going to sound stupid given where we're going.
Yeah. In
the summer, I didn't anticipate it being as cold as it was.
Yeah. And I suppose you go off what our summers and our winters are like, I suppose, as well, whereas you don't realise how much the climate changes the further north you go as well, even though it's like...
I mean, we were going towards when we breached into the Arctic Circle, and it was bone dry, blue sky, not a cloud, sunny, and it was probably 2 degrees, and with the wind chill, you were probably at -10 on some days. It was definitely below 5 below.
The thing is, that's the thing on a bike as well, because you're so exposed, aren't you? So if it is cold, and you got the wind chill of riding as well, especially if you've got wet or something like that, or
that was my biggest concern was I could handle the cold. We'd gone out when we'd looked at the bikes and what we needed to do to them, because obviously Iain's adventure bike was completely ready to go.
Yeah. So he had the Tiger.
The Tiger Sport, fantastic.
Yeah,
and
no good for me because I'm a short ass. That's the problem. That's the only problem with me as well. I can't ride a lot of bikes that
I developed complete envy for his bike because of his quick shifter, and I think ragging an old 600 manually. I actually bought a little cruise control clip that clipped to the handlebars, which was a godsend.
Oh, is that one of them flat ones that you just rest your palm on?
Yeah, just rest. Yeah. No. I tried one of them. I couldn't get that on with the grips. It's like a clamp that sits to your throttle, and as you push the throttle down, it rests against your front brake. So it sort of holds it, but you can knock it and knock it back. Yeah, so it was the main thing was the comfort for us riding. So I think there was a lot of time spent, probably too much time trying on adventure gear and trying to find the right setup.
So did you buy a new outfit kind of thing to go? Yeah, as well?
I think we went with the full thermal. I think it was RST things.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of the Risha Gore-Tex and the Rucker stuff.
It's amazing though how wearing a bit of layering does make a massive difference. And when I first started to ride, I had it sounds like I'm really loaded, but Belstaff weren't like a designer brand at the time. I had Belstaff leathers, but they've kind of gone like designer shoppy. Like you can buy like Belstaff like fashion clothes and stuff, can't you?
And this is it with the sport bikes. I've always ridden in Furigan leathers.
Yeah.
And before, when we planned it, I said, I'll just wear my Furigans, I'll put a t-shirt underneath. And we'd had a little test ride out. We went to Scotland. I'd done it in Furigan leathers, and I was like, not a fucking chance. I was so cold, and I think that was it. We came back and thought, right, because of how far it is, we need to be comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, you start getting cold.
Yeah.
There's no recovering from that.
No,
you can't get back from that. Like, you either need to stop and go somewhere warm, because you're never going to warm up.
I think this was a problem. The main thing was the morale. Now, we had the intercom system, so we're talking openly all the time. We're just chatting complete shit about things that we're seeing or what's happened the day before, what we're looking forward to. You can handle being wet. So we've ridden in the past... I did the Battlefield tour in France years ago, and it rained continuously for a week, and I could handle the wetness. It's the cold.
Cold.
And And once your feet get cold and you're struggling to feel the rear brake and changing gear became painful sometimes if your toes were cold. And so I said, right, I'm not doing it. The sports shit, staying at home, let's get the proper adventure clothing. If I'm doing it on a cheap bike, that's fine, but I need to be prepared.
Exactly. And I think when I don't hark back to when I did mine, but it was very similarities and stuff. Like I knew I had some good gear. And I had good thermal suit. I wore it was a woolen thermal suit, and it looked so old fashioned. It was like something from the Victorian age. But tell you what, that thing it's one of them things that keeps you cool in the summer. Weirdly, I don't know how, but in the winter you're roasting, and you actually sometimes you're riding along and you think I'm actually too hot. Like what's going on? But when it does get cold, when you're too hot, you're like I don't really care. Like it's better than being cold.
I think we knew it as long as we didn't have rain. And we had the good because the worst thing was we knew we weren't going to be at hotels long enough to dry the gear.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to be doing was
Did you have leathers?
No, so I did it in Gore-Tex.
Was it Gore-Tex stuff?
Yeah, so
that's not as bad. Leathers are, as you know, it's like 3 weeks later and they're still damp.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And there's nothing more
in a warm
uncomfortable.
radiated room and stuff. Yeah, and you put them back on, you're like, oh my god, that's terrible. Like,
I think the thinking behind it was if we get the proper Gore-Tex stuff with the thermal linings, then we can essentially just ride in shorts.
Yeah,
and it narrows down how much clothing we've got to take with us as well. So that's the way we went. We did take an extra pair of boots, and a couple of pairs of gloves, but it was, when I say it was planned in 8 months, we probably only had half a dozen phone calls to plan it because you see these mates, and so we'd get on the call.
So
and
phone wants to the inception of it, and then 3 months later have another conversation. Then
this wasn't this wasn't a team of people putting it together. This was I've booked the hotels. Fuck it, best bus the ferry then.
Exactly. Yeah.
We took the spare fuel in case we needed it little bits, but not a great deal. We were carrying probably 5 litres each, and that was just
to limp you to somewhere if you needed to.
Exactly. Yeah. I will say, for anyone that wants to go there, it's the easiest country to bike around because there's unmanned petrol stations we discovered that are not necessarily on the maps and things, but they're everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, the roads were stunning. There was no traffic on them. Once you got past sort of halfway up, there was no speed cameras. We'd go a couple of hours without seeing a car. And this is the main road from Gothenburg to a place called Jokkmokk in the Artic Circle.
It can be like that in Scotland sometimes, though, I think. Like, when I've been riding up there, like I was down this road and I was thinking, am I going the right way? Because I've not seen a car for about half an hour and I'm the only person. And then I started thinking, God, if I fall off, no one will find me. Like, I'll be here alone. Like,
I think we got a little bit overconfident. On one of the days we were we'd not seen anybody for a long time. And strange enough too, the most random things happened on the same day. We stopped, the road sort of disappeared into gravel. They must have been doing some repairs. And we were on this gravel for what seemed like hours, doing 15 mile an hour. And we stopped and we were just chatting, so let's have a break. And literally, you might have seen the photos on Instagram. The white reindeer just walked right in front of me on its own.
Yes.
Just looked at me and then walked off. And so we were sort of chatting. So, let's find somewhere nice because obviously a lot of wildlife around here. Let's pull over and we'll have a bit of lunch. And we had a drone with us as well, just for some of the aerial shots. Yeah. So we sort of pulled off on this side road into the forest. Oh, there'd be nice. There must be a view somewhere. Iain was messing around with his drone. I think I'd put like this little kettle on. I think I'd just gone for a piss actually in the bush. And I looked and there was fucking bones everywhere. And I don't mean like these bones had been like, you could see there was just marks all over them. There's claw marks, there was bits of fur. I was like, trying to get Google to see what animals were there. And I said to him, you're going to have to wrap that shit up. We can't stay here. There was hundreds of bones. That's crazy. And they were just like snapped to pieces. So I don't know what's in there, but
that's mad.
Yeah, we decided then that we stay on the more main sort of roads. We didn't want to be. I think we were sort of 10, 15 miles off the beaten track then, and
it just goes to show that, doesn't it? Like in a country like that, like just venturing a little bit off the roads can put you into like such wilderness and stuff.
I think when we look at the pictures of where we're going to go. And you sit there and you see all these pretty roads going through. Sweden is literally a blanket of trees. Yeah. As far as, with the exception of Stockholm and the coast road, as far as you can see, was just trees and forests, and there was nothing there. There wasn't a case of passing police stations and hospitals. No. It was the occasional little town dotted around, but very often we'd be 2 or 3 hours away from anything, and that's I think you sometimes sit there and worry. Luckily, we'd both, with our jobs, had done quite a bit of medical stuff, and I carried.
It's sobering though, isn't it? That thought, isn't it? And you just think, actually, motorcycling's not the safest thing.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, how am I going to get help? Maybe.
Yeah, I think some of the things, the main things we were worried about was things like taking the stone and stuff through the radiator and being stranded, or one of us coming off, because the reality is that we would probably have to leave that person. Make them safe, and then go get help.
Try and go get help.
And I think when you're riding for 2 or 3 hours, I think in a car it's different. You have a sense of comfort around you.
Yeah.
But when you're pottering around a bike and you realise how exposed you are,
yeah,
and it takes one animal to run in front of the road, and you could be, some of these roads had literally just ravines off the side of them, and like the rivers were insane. I thought, if you come off on these, but it was definitely. I think we opened our eyes when we got there.
Yeah, definitely.
We're a bit blasé to start with. How hard can it be? It's Europe. Europe's easy. It's all safe and nice, and yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing some more. So what we'll do is we'll end it there. And I thought we'd need 2 parts. So we will end it there. So join us for part 2, where we'll speak about Jonny's adventure a bit more, about what else he saw in on this road trip, a bit more of a narrative about how it panned out, and did he succeed? Like, you probably know the answer to that already, but we'll leave it there and tune in for part 2. So cheers, Jonny, and we'll get you back for part 2. Cheers. You've been listening to Stephen Speak the podcast. Thanks for listening to my unscripted prattle on everything and nothing. Visit stephenspeak.com for updates, information, and my blog. You can follow more updates on social media at StephenSpeakPC. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon.